Welcome to the Let's Fix Construction podcast. Let's Fix Construction is an avenue to offer creative solutions, separate myths from facts, and erase misconceptions about the architecture, engineering, and construction industry.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's fix you and me. Every broken thing that we can see. All the pain and all the misery. Let's start tomorrow.
Let's join your Let's Fix Construction co-hosts, Erik and Cherise Lakeside.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of the Let's Fix Construction podcast. This is episode number 4. Thank you very much for tuning in, and today we're going to talk about Construct 2018. My name is Erik, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Cherise Lakeside. Say hello, Cherise.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you very much for joining me this evening. And Cherise and I have got an interesting background because when it all comes said and done, she and I actually met at Construct going back. Has it really been 5 years already?
It's been 5 years already. Phoenix in 2011?
No, that'd make it 2012. 2011 was Chicago. Construct is a wonderful national conference that we're going to be getting into a little bit through today's episode of Let's Fix Construction's podcast, and it moves around the nation. It actually started, well, I shouldn't say started. I was started with the Construct trade show in Philadelphia in 2010, and then it moved in Chicago in 2011, and then Phoenix in 2012, and that is where we met. Who would know that 5 years later, 5+ now years later, we're doing this? Did you ever think?
I would never have imagined this in a million years.
And we talk about it every year, that really the number one thing that you and I get out of the Construct show is the people that we see on site. The people that we see, most of them, unfortunately, only yearly, and it's at this show. Really, when it comes down to it, the show, we always say, is about the people. And who are these people that attend the trade show? Well, it's architects, it's designers, it's construction specifiers, it's building contractors, it's product reps such as myself, engineers, interior designers, product manufacturers. It's all walks of life in the construction industry, and they all basically hit this show wherever it may be. And that, it turns out, one faithful night, so to speak, in a bar where Cherise and I have been known to have a beer or two over the years. We actually happened to meet in Phoenix. What was that first show like for you, Cherise?
That was an interesting show because I didn't have a lot of time for things like conferences and different educational events over the years. And so I got involved in Construct in some of these kinds of things a little later in my career, when my kids got older and my time wasn't as encumbered by other activities. And so I have to admit, when I went to Phoenix, I was probably a little bit intimidated. I was going to my first national conference very late in my career. I didn't know anybody there except for a few people from Portland in my industry that were in attendance, and I didn't really know what to expect. I certainly didn't expect what Construct has turned out to be for me and what it means to me at this point. I just figured I was going to go to a bunch of boring classes and probably sit in my hotel room in the evenings and then go home with some new knowledge. That's what I expected. That is certainly not what I got.
And that's what I didn't hit on at all, and that was my mistake, is beyond what Construct is and the trade show that is with it, it's actually a heavy educational backbone. And these educational sessions are basically designed for all of those attendees. And whether you're a product rep like myself or a construction specifier like Cherise, there are different classes that are featured towards your trade, towards your industry, towards your walk of life. So when you went in 2012, do you remember offhand, what some of the classes were that you signed up for? The general topic or theme?
Oh, that's a hard one. And no, I'm going to tell you I don't. I will tell you what I do remember. One of the things that impressed me about the education at Construct that I really wasn't prepared for is that the topics were approached from multiple viewpoints. The people, because there's such a variety of people that attend the show, while there are some things that are very focused on one thing, like, maybe how to properly design or spec a roof, there's a lot of sessions that take a topic and present it in a way that an architect, an engineer, a contractor, an owner could all be sitting in the room and take knowledge away from that session that they can go back and use. And I was really impressed by that. While I was going to learn from the architecture standpoint and use that in my firm by understanding how other disciplines were processing and using that same information actually made the education I received be more well-rounded than just getting something specifically geared just for my discipline and not anybody else.
Excellent. And I remember after attending my first full Construct show in 2011 in Chicago, I say as a product rep, I'm obviously not interested in a lot of the education sessions that are geared towards, I do flooring. So if they weren't geared towards flooring or concrete or what's some sort of affiliation between the two or a combination of the two or something correlating to the two, I'm not looking for that type of thing. So they had a lot of sessions that were built for product reps, basically how to perform a proper sales call to an architect's office, how to prepare proper substitution requests, and a lot of information that is not out there to train me how to properly work with someone like yourself. And I came out of Chicago really, wow, I was blown away by these classes that were being delivered by industry professionals and people that have been there and done that for many years to train me and the other attendees in my class to help better work with them. And I was really excited coming out of Chicago because I was able to basically go right into my day job on the Monday afterwards and take some of that information and run with it. And that's a lot of what Construct is geared for. Whatever your walk of life is, you're really meant to put something immediately to use the next day. And we've seen it over the years. And when we talk about over the years, just since 2012 in Phoenix, Construct has been in Nashville in 2013 and went to Baltimore in 2014, St. Louis in 2015, Austin in 2016. We were just in Providence in September of 2017. And coming up in 2018 in October, and October 3rd to 5th, it's going to be at the Long Beach Convention Center in Long Beach, California. I've never been to California, so I've been talking about it since it's been announced that, hey, this is in California, so this is going to be a great thing to see and do, just because it's in California. But it's also just taken on new legs over the last couple of years because there's been a lot of new faces involved from the trade show programmers and also from the attendees, because every year there's a lot more people becoming involved with Construct and getting to attend for the first time. And that's where you were in 2011, and you were many years into your profession. You had no idea, you said, that this show existed before you got to attend in 2012, correct?
I didn't, and that's why I was glad that this was going to be a topic of our podcast, because this show and my involvement with the people that I've met through this show have been invaluable to my career. I think that my career has gone more places in the last 5 or 6 years than it did in the first 25 in some ways. And a lot of that has been due to the amazing people that I've met at Construct and mentors that I now have all over the country. And I would not have met any of these people. I wouldn't know them, and I wouldn't be able to share knowledge with them had I not attended Construct. So for me, for my career, and in some ways, some of these people are like family to me now. It's been one of the most important things I have done, and one of the most valuable things I have done. So talking about it and sharing that for other people who have never heard of Construct is kind of important to me.
Right. And not only that, but I think we've both talked about this in the past, and we've hit on this in previous Let's Fix Construction podcast episodes, but your speaking presentation workshop career, if you will, really got a launch at a Construct show, and that was 2013 in Nashville. And why don't you go not real quick necessarily, but, talk a little bit more again about you speaking at your first, not only your first gig period, but your first national gig, and what that's kind of done for your career.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a funny story going back to actually at the same time I met you. And that was at the last night of Construct in Phoenix, the first year. And a number of us were sitting around that table. And one of those people was Paul Traynor from Informa. It was Hanley Wood at the time, but Informa, the people who planned the convention. And we chatted for a long time and became friends and kept in touch via social media after the show. And not too terribly long after Phoenix, Paul sent me a message and said, I think you'd be a great speaker. You should submit a proposal to speak at Construct. So that was probably in September, so it was within a couple months that I heard from him. I told him he was a complete nut job. I had never spoken in public in my life besides at a few of my kids' events saying when their trophy money was due. And he likes to poke the bear, and he kept pushing, and Cherise, you need to do this. And I talked to a couple other people who said, yeah, I think you need to do this. And I thought they were all crazy, but then I thought there's no way that I'm going to get accepted, that this Education Advisory Council is going to choose me because I'm new to the organization. They've never heard of me, and only the big important people get to speak at the convention. So in all honesty, Paul, if you're listening, please forgive me. I submitted a proposal to speak at Construct in Nashville to shut him up. And I figured if I would just put in the proposal, he would leave me alone. I knew it wouldn't get accepted, and all was good. And then a few months later, I get an email saying, Cherise, we're happy to say you've been accepted to speak at Construct. And after I went into cardiac arrest and started hyperventilating and everything else, I just, I was kind of starting a mission to not let fear get in my way. And I thought, oh, what the hell? I'm going to do this. And I'll be perfectly honest, I was terrified. And there was a lot of people, you included, that really supported me that day in Nashville when I got up in front of a room. Poor Sheldon Wolf came up and met me for the first time outside that room. And he introduced himself, and I was so nervous that I responded with, please don't come to my session. Because he had a reputation, and they call him the curmudgeon, and I thought he was, and he's very well respected. And I didn't want him in the room because I was pretty sure I was going to make a fool out of myself. He promised not to pick on me in the session, so I let him come in the room. And that was my first speaking gig at Construct. With what's on the table for 2018, I think I'm going to be somewhere near 125 since that first gig in Nashville. And that's another thing that Construct Show has brought to my life professionally, besides the people, is the opportunity to discover a part of myself that I didn't know existed. And, well, of course, you're always your own worst critic. I think I'm terrible every single time. I keep getting invited back, so I guess I'm doing okay.
I remember being there. I remember supporting you because I recognized that you were nervous. And I knew that you knew your stuff and you were going to do well, but we all need a little bit of a self-esteem boost every now and then. And I was kind of there for that. And Architect Consulting Engineer Coordination Closing the Gap was the presentation that you did, and you knocked it out of the park because you knew your stuff. A lot of people were there as allies, or were those that were, I think, already becoming a little bit aware of who you were because you were starting to ruffle feathers around the construction industry, and they wanted to hear what you had to say. And what you had to say was a lot of common sense knowledge, but as we know through our last 18, 20 months of Let's Fix Construction, a lot of the common sense is missing in the industry nowadays. And you were putting a lot of stuff out there that you were seeing from basically both sides, being working for an architect and also working for a consulting engineer. And you had that both sides of the coin, both sides of the track kind of opinion. And it was valuable knowledge that really needed to be said and needed to be put out there. And I actually wrote a blog post, as I mentioned previously, I think on one of our podcasts, based around that presentation, as well as one that I attended from David Stutzman that year at Construct, and how communication is such a humongous issue that we have in the AEC industry. And certainly one of the reasons why we are doing what we are doing with Let's Fix Construction, because communication is such a huge issue out there. Education Advisory Council, you hit on it real quick just a few minutes ago, how you were kind of surprised that they accepted you in Nashville. Well, in 2017 for Construct in Providence, you and I had the unique opportunity where we were both invited to sit in on the Education Advisory Council. And it's certainly a little bit of an eye-opening experience to basically see how these educational sessions get picked at a national trade show. And we basically sat there with 12 peers of ours on the council, and we helped whittle down, 210 sessions down to about 40 that were quite literally hand-picked to be presented in Providence. And you certainly, if you submit, you're not guaranteed to present, but we helped whittle it down there. And on the flip side, you and I were also able to present not once, but twice in Providence at the Construct Show. And that is, those were my first sessions that I've ever presented at Construct. And it is an eye-opening experience to know that these are not just national attendees, but as some of our people that we've met in the past, we know that we actually essentially have international attendees that come in for this show, as you've had some attendees in the past at Young Professionals Day, which is a small aspect of Construct, be from outside of the United States. So Young Professionals Day is something that has been, we've talked about it in one of the previous podcast episodes, part of the last, what are we saying, three
now
Construct shows now? And we're going to be going on the 4th Young Professionals Day in Long Beach in 2018, correct?
Correct.
And talk about being crazy enough to ask you back. You're going to be there again in 2018, aren't you, for Young Professionals Day?
I am. I was, one of the things I love about Construct, and I think that being on this Education Advisory Council has just added another layer for me, is we're constantly morphing. We're constantly trying to improve. And we talked about it on another podcast, so I won't go into details, but one of the improvements was 3 years ago, because I've been rather vocal about my support of mentoring and supporting young professionals in our industry, and talking to them as equals instead of talking down to them. I was asked by Informa if I would care to lead their first Young Professionals Day. No idea, once again, what I was getting into, but it was one more adventure in an area I had a passion for. And that's one of the things that's really awesome about being on the council and reviewing the call for presentations, is there's a lot of opportunities to change the game every year and to bring new things into the mix and to explore new ideas. And as a council member, we also have the opportunity to suggest things to Informa that maybe didn't actually come in on a call for proposals, but maybe we saw a presentation somewhere that was really awesome, and we have an opportunity to suggest ideas for sessions, maybe even speakers. But Young Professionals was just one of the things that was an opportunity that they recognized from sharing a lot of information that now is, I'll be leading my 4th YP Day in Long Beach this fall, and I'm really excited about it. It's just one more layer of things that are available at Construct to learn and grow as a professional and be involved in.
So really why we wanted to put this out there in this latest episode of the Let's Fix Construction podcast is you have the opportunity, and by you I actually mean listener, to not only, of course, attend the Construct Show in Long Beach this coming October, but you can actually speak at Construct. You only have a couple of weeks left to do it, but the call for presentations is out, and we think that if you have that burning desire to get your knowledge out there and to share some information and to help our built environment, really meet essentially the mission of what Let's Fix Construction is, you should think about putting in a presentation pitch, if you will, to Informa, to the Construct Show for 2018. And to kind of wrap this all up, we want to really summarize once again what Construct is. And it's the only dedicated national trade show and educational conference for the commercial building teams that specify and source and really purchase building materials. Construct links thousands of industry leaders to procure real-world practical knowledge for building success. Check it out at constructshow.com. But you've got basically a 2-week window from the launch of this podcast to submit your presentation topic, and it's due January 23rd, and we're going to share the link in the show notes as to how you can pitch this. But they're really looking for something a little bit different. Maybe it's a panel discussion, maybe it's some hands-on learning, maybe it's a unique spin on a case study, but share your knowledge. It's a lot of what we say Let's Fix Construction is about. What good is retiring or going to the grave or keeping that knowledge inside of you if you're not really trying to help our built environment? And that's what we're trying to do with Let's Fix Construction, and that's what Construct is trying to do with their show. And this is a unique opportunity for you to really join the ranks where Cherise was in 2012, where I just was in 2017 speaking for the first time. But we're going to be on the advisory council again for 2018. Let us go through your pitch and see if this perhaps is worthy of being presented to dozens, if not hundreds, of people in that classroom to hear your knowledge and to hear what you have to share. I think it's a great opportunity for anybody out there that thinks they have something to share. Because Cherise, thinking back to where you were in 2012, you did not believe you had something unique to share, correct?
No, I really didn't. I felt like I was going to be in front of, which I was, in a room with leaders in our industry. And I thought, I'll be perfectly honest, I thought I was going to totally choke. I mean, these are the best of the best. And I couldn't possibly have something they didn't already know, with more experience and more years in the business. And it turns out I was wrong, but we have a problem in our industry of talking to each other. We have a problem in our industry of sharing different viewpoints and sharing that knowledge to get us all on the same page, which is what our Let's Fix Construction effort is all about. And so is Construct, really. And in order to do that, we need people from different disciplines to bring that knowledge to the table and come share it with the rest of us, so we all understand things the same way. And I think that helps us work better. And
we're really just focused on the educational component, obviously, here, but the trade show itself is well over 200 different exhibitors throughout the building industry. There's some services involved, but there's a lot of product manufacturers out there, and there's a lot of architects and designers and specifiers and purchasers that are on the floor walking through, getting information from these exhibitors. And there's still a chance to exhibit the show as well. You can check that out at constructshow.com. But the big component that we go back for year after year is this educational component. And whether you are an exhibitor, you can still put in your presentation pitch, if you will. So the attendees, again, are specifiers, architects, product reps, engineers, contractors, building owners, all sorts of walks of life in the construction industry. So whether you think that your idea is meant for one of those walks of life or all of them, put it down there. The general pitch, you don't have to have your presentation 100% done when you fill out essentially the request for proposal. You just need to have your learning objectives down and an idea of where you want it to go. You actually basically fine-tune your presentation after the fact that you're selected. So if you have an idea and think you have your learning objectives down, think of it as an AIA learning lunch, if you will. Make it non-proprietary. It's not about a certain building name or product, but it makes it about the building industry. Get your learning notes down there, fill out the sheet, and go from there. You never know if you're going to be selected to attend. It's a really, really unique opportunity, and it could perhaps essentially launch a speaking career like Cherise kind of had accidentally happen 5.5 years ago. Who knew?
Who knew?
You certainly didn't know, did you? So the link is going to be in the show notes. Constructshow.com is the website. If you make your way there, go under education and then call for sessions, You can find it there, and it's once again going to be in the show notes. So dig down deep. January 23rd, essentially the RFP is due to speak at Construct in Long Beach, California. The presentations are going to be the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The trade show itself is October 4th and 5th. I'm very excited to be back at Construct and in California this year, and we hope that you have the opportunity to submit for a chance to speak at Construct in 2018. So thank you very much for tuning in to another edition of the Let's Fix Construction podcast, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Let's Fix Construction podcast. To hear other episodes, read our blogs from dozens of collaborators, and see where we'll be hosting our next live workshop, please visit letsfixconstruction.com. We're always looking for AEC professionals to contribute their industry solutions. To offer your support as a blogger or podcast guest, contact letsfixconstruction@gmail.com.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's fix you and me. Every broken thing that we can see, all the pain and all the misery. Let's start tomorrow. Let's build you and me a towering impossibility, a thing of art, a thing of beauty we can show. If it don't matter if it's new or old, and we don't have to wait until we're told. Let's fix it now before the iron's cold. We'll fix it once, we'll fix it thrice, as many times till it stays nice. A wondrous world this would be. Let's fix it, you and me. If all you see is what cannot be done, you'll surely miss out on the joyous fun. So come with me and we'll reject no one. I trust you know this ain't no joke. Let's pull together all the folk and we'll work on life's mystery. Let's fix it, you and me.